Hello Channel NITT viewers, I am DS, your psychologist, and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. So Channel NITT has been producing a lot of MBTI videos, particularly a lot of ENTJ MBTI videos. That's because I'm an ENTJ myself. However, I think we have come to a point in time where we can now start to talk more about shadow functions. Of course, we're going to start with the ENTJ as well. So for most of our videos, we have been talking about the cognitive stacks of all the individual MBTI types. We talk as if we don't use shadow functions at all. Other than some of the SI blind spot videos that I have produced, I seldom talk about NITT and FE, which are part of the shadow functions of the ENTJ. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about NE and SI because they are a cognitive pair. So NE and SI are a cognitive pair. In order for you to use SI, you must suppress NE and vice versa. So does the ENTJ use NE and SI at all? Before we talk about the circumstances in which an ENTJ may use shadow functions, we must emphasize on one thing. All MBTI types prefer to use the functions on their cognitive stacks. They might use their shadow functions, but only at times and under very special circumstances. So in one of my episodes where I talk about ENTJ and traveling, I mentioned that when traveling, I tend to use SI much more than usual. Also during examinations, I may tend to check more than usual because these are very important occasions for me. So whenever I encounter an important decision to make, I may have to use SI. But usually I do not use SI. In fact, I prefer not to use SI at all because SI is my blind spot. So if I have to memorize something, I prefer to memorize using my brain, my mind. I always want to use NI. So if I try to navigate a place when I'm driving, I don't tend to check maps at all. I just depend on my own internal cognitive map. So in a way, people will say that how come this person so stubborn? This is because all MBTI types prefer to use the cognitive functions, especially the dominant and auxiliary functions, in their cognitive stacks. So as an ENTJ, definitely I want to use TE and NI. So most of the time during a transit, while I'm on a bus or while I'm on a train, I tend to start to have a lot of juices, some creative juices flowing to me. I have new ideas for the next episodes. However, I don't write them down. So I process them, I entertain them, I develop them in my brain. When I reach home, I forget. Or I just know the gist, but I forget the details. So this is a very huge problem for the ENTJ because I just don't have the motivation to pen it down when I really should.
Write it on a piece of paper.
Of course, this is a very glaring example for me to tell you how I always prefer functions on my cognitive stacks. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about NE and SI. Basically, NE for me is NI plus SE. You have imagination and you act out the imagination. So personally, as an individual, I would consider myself to be rather curious. I have a lot of ideas and sometimes I want to test these ideas.
Mic check 1 2 1 2 3.
So there are a lot of times I may test out ideas just for the fun of it, just to know the result. But this is quite rare also. And in order for me to test out ideas, physically, there must be some conditions that must be met. First, whatever that I do must not be costly. Also, it must not harm myself or others. So in this regard, I will not play pranks on others. My NE, if I ever use it, is for things that are like for curiosity's sake. So an example of this would be if I am bathing and I realize that hey, I forgot to replenish my shower gel. So I may start to wonder, can I use shampoo to replace the shower gel just for this time? I think no harm, right? So I will wash myself using shampoo. Of course, I will have to make the assumption that showering with shampoo does not harm at all because most of the time you are just washing your hair and the shampoo may have to flow down the body anyway, right? So most of the time I will only do this once. The next time I would have already replenished my shower gel and I will be using the shower gel instead. Sometimes when I'm in a mood, I may also experiment with food. So I may say, okay, what if I add peppermint to this? Or what if I add chili sauce to this? But it's also very rare because personally I prefer food to taste exactly how I like it to be. So I don't want to try something new most of the time. But there are very rare times that I just have this mood to try something new. So this is why NE is usually something that I don't do, although I have the capacity to do it. Just bypass it totally. And if we are talking about machines, definitely no NE for me. So let's say I have a camera or I have bought a new printer, there are a lot of buttons, right? Personally, I am really very hesitant in trying out new functions on a device, especially unfamiliar functions. I am very worried that if I change the settings accidentally, I have a lot of trouble troubleshooting. Because this is SI blind spot. Because I have envisioned the inefficiency and the inconvenience that changing the settings accidentally of a new device may have caused me, I usually do not play with instruments, do not play with equipment and machines. I am totally non-experimental when it comes to this area.
Don't wanna try, don't wanna try, don't wanna try no more.
Personally, I also do not practice NE on people. So I do not deliberately not reply you to see what your reaction will be. However, I must say that in my entire life, I have actually done this kind of thing once or twice. Really. But now I don't do it at all because I don't see any need to. So my NE is really very low. It's really a shadow. So in one of my videos, I mentioned that all the J types in MBTI, they are superego function users. So all these are superego functions and all these are id functions. So the superego function is your conscience, the angel, while the id is the devil and the demon or the impish child inside you. So as a J type, I prefer to use superego functions. This is why, actually, even though SI is my blind spot, I tend to use SI more than NE. And I use SI only when I am stressed or when something is of utmost importance to me or something has a consequence. Just to give you an example, I have a dog and my dog Reuben has been featured in 2 of our videos. What actually happens is when I just got Reuben as a dog, I tend to feed him human food. So I did give him grapes. I was ignorant. I just thought that okay, no harm, fruits is okay. The dog can eat fruits. I have been giving Reuben, my dog, grapes as a treat for close to 6-7 years of the dog's life. Until I was told by another dog owner that you cannot feed dogs grapes. They will get poisoned. So then my SI kicks in. Subsequently, for all types of fruits like sugarcane juice or ice cream, I would check the internet using my SI to gather research information whether this is something that a dog can eat. So because my dog is very important to me, therefore I will engage SI when I have questions with regards to the dog. I will never engage NE. On the other hand, using an example that I've mentioned just now, unimportant questions like, can I shower using shampoo? Those kind of questions is totally unimportant. I will never even bother to research. I'm not curious enough to even go and type into Google on that question. So SI is used when I am stressed, when something is totally important to me, or when something has a huge consequence and I need to be careful. I must say, my SI blind spot is so serious that most of the time I tend not to use SI in anything I do. So to conclude for this episode, I would say that shadow functions such as NE and SI are very rarely used by me. And I would presume that for fellow ENTJs, this is the same case for you. So down the road, we're going to talk more about shadow functions and shadow functions of each of the different MBTI types. If you have not subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more MBTI. Okay, I'm gonna shut down. Okay, I'm going to sign off now and I'll see you in my next episode. Goodbye!